Hi AP, welcome to your very brief introduction to arrays. You guys are going to see arrays more in future units and future projects. They're a super important data structure in computing, and we are not giving them the credit they deserve right now. I just kind of need us to know they exist so we can try using them in future programs in 1.4 and 1.5. So today, very brief introduction. This is also super brief because whether you took Python last year or JavaScript last year, you have worked with arrays before. I know that you did them with Ms. Schumann or you did them with me. So all of this should hopefully just be dredging stuff up from the depths of your brain. And even though some of the methods and ways in which we work with arrays looks different from language to language, the overall basics, how it looks, how it's structured, how we use them, is really the same whether you were in Software 1 or Software 2 last year. So we're going to dive in. There is no starter code for this because we are just going to build an array together and just do a little using of our array together. And then you guys are going to kind of go from there. So we're going to make an array in a brand new document. I would recommend that you guys maybe rename this like 1.3.2 Intro to Arrays or something so that you can take notes. Make sure, as always, you go to File, Save, so that you have this in your account. And remember to make sure that your YouTube video is on one half of your screen, your code is on the other half, and you are pausing, rewatching, however you need to make sure you get your information. Also, please remember, I do try and take code comment notes on the screen when I can, but often I'm so busy talking that it's hard for me to talk and take notes for you and like type the code and be in a video all at once. So if I say something that you think is useful or you think you might need to remember, you can always leave it as a comment in your code. These are essentially your notes, so do with that what you will. So we're going to start off with just what an array is. Give me one. All right, so let's start with what an array is. An array is the fancy computer word for list, and I will make that note on my screen. An array is always stored inside a variable, and then it contains a bunch of different things in an ordered way. So I'm going to say that it's a list with order. That order is something called an index value, and it's a number that decides like what place in a list something has. If you had me last year, we did a lot of talking about like shopping lists, which some of your parents might have, like the pen and paper ones where it's lined and things are in order. You might even, depending on your parents, you might know like the first things are the most important and later is less important. But you could look at a list and say like, get me the first item, get me the second. And if someone was looking at the list, they would know what to go get for you. And that's going to be very similar in an array. If you call something from an array by number, they're going to know what to go do and get for you. So when we are working with arrays, you will often hear or see on the internet things called Crud Operations. And that's like a gross word, but it stands for create, read, update, delete. And those are like the basic things that you could do with a list. We're going to think about the first three of those things today. So I am going to start by just making a list. And actually, I'm going to get rid of setup and draw for today. We don't really need, we'll just do things in the console. I was going to make things print as text on the screen, but we'll just do it in the console so that we can just stay focused on our arrays. You could always make these happen on the console. Arrays are also going to be a huge part of us making visual things with objects in our next unit. So this will all come back around to be more exciting. Again, this is just the silliest of silly things. So we're going to start by creating an array. So to create an array, you are always going to be creating a variable, and that variable is going to hold your ordered list of things. So the process of making a variable doesn't change. I'm going to call this, I think I'm going to make a list of breakfast foods. So I'm going to call this let beefist food, because I want to keep it short. And I'm going to set that equal to something. And the thing it's going to be equal to is an array. And the computer knows that we are writing an array when we have these square brackets. So these square brackets, you find them in the upper right side of your keyboard, kind of directly underneath the plus equal sign key. Where you find your curly braces would maybe be a shorter way to say that. You just don't hold shift and hit your curly braces. And anything inside of there, the computer knows is part of an array. Now, right now, beefist food is set equal to an empty array. So again, think back to your parents with like their notepad for the groceries. This is just an empty sheet from that notepad. Nothing has been added to it yet. If I wanted to add foods into this breakfast array, I would, because I'm adding foods the computer doesn't understand, I'm going to add them all as strings, but arrays can hold anything. They can hold numbers, they can hold variables, they can even hold other arrays, which is also something that we will come to in our next unit. But I'm just going to make an array of strings of different breakfast foods. I'm going to put in eggs, toast, orange juice, pancakes, waffles. We'll leave it like that. And I have just created a list. I started with an empty list. I added things to it, but I have created a list. So that is the C in CRUD. Now, if I hit play, nothing's going to happen, and this is very similar to when you guys just create variables but don't do anything with them yet. If I wanted to read this array, there's a few different ways I can do it. I'm going to do all of this in console logs because I just want it to print out there. But if I wanted to see the whole array, I could just print beefist food, and this would show me the whole array. It prints out, and you'll notice it has this drop down next to it, which is really useful, which I'm going to utilize right now. It lists out eggs, toast, orange juice, pancakes, waffles, and if I press that down arrow, you're going to see that it has these numbers next to each item. 0 for eggs, 1 for toast, 2 for orange juice, 3 for pancakes, 4 for waffles. The reason this is 0 to 4 is because computers start counting at 0. And you guys might have noticed that I'm really purposeful with that this year. You had a unit 0 instead of a unit 1. You guys always have lesson zeros. And like when we start a new unit or when we start a new week, it starts with like 1.4.0 or 1.3.0, not 1.3.1. We start counting at 0. So 0 is the index value of the first item. 4 is the index value of the last item, and then, we have numbers in between. And this is important because if I want to call on a specific item, I would do it like this. I'm going to have my console.log again because that's what prints it. But then I'm going to put beefist food, and instead of just leaving it beefist food, I'm going to put my square braces after it, and in between those square braces, I'm going to type a number. So if I type the number 2, I'm expecting that it prints out orange juice because the index value of orange juice is 2. So if I hit play, I not only get my whole list, but I also get the word orange juice. And this is how we read an array. We can read it for all of its value at once, or we can look for one item at a time. And what you'll often be doing is looking at one item at a time, just to make life a little bit better. The last thing we need to know how to do is how to update an array. And I am only showing you this right now because it's pretty straightforward and easy. We'll learn about deleting and kind of all that other stuff later. But in JavaScript, a quick and easy way to update an array is to push something to the array. This adds it directly to the end of my array, and we will perhaps learn that you can add to different locations in the array, depending on how you want your program to run. But I can go ahead and write in beefistfood.push. I'll put in bacon. I don't eat that, but I know some of y'all do. And then afterwards, oops, I did something weird. Afterwards, I will console log my array again. And I should see that after I add bacon, oops, this does something weird because it pushes before it runs. But after I add bacon, I see bacon on the end of my list, even though bacon does not exist on line 5. I have pushed bacon, and it now lives at the end of that list. So we have learned how to create, how to read, and how to add food to a list. The only thing I want you guys to do with this code is to create your own array of lunch foods or dinner foods, lunch or dinner foods, that I can then read and update if I see fit. So somewhere in this code, you guys are making a brand new variable called lunch food or dinner food or whatever, and you're going to make a list of strings of different lunch or dinner foods, and that is what you'll be submitting to me. All right, guys. Bye.